So I've tried to record this a few times, but we're trying to be a little careful on the YouTubes. So I first ate corn when I was 13, and I even remember the name of the website, but I did not tell my parents about it until much later in life. And I don't think my parents would have done a very good job of helping me with anything. Um, they never really have emotionally, so don't know if that would really have changed anything about anything. Um, but I had no guidance about it. Nobody showed me it or anything. I just literally stumbled upon it. It was just random as far as I'm concerned. Well, not random. I probably looked for it, but there was nothing. I don't think there was any sort of catalyst to the searching for it. And it was my first exposure to anything sexual. I was younger when I first saw a girl naked. We were hanging out at her place. We were kids. This was before any sort of dating or anything could have possibly been going on. Um, and I'll save the details of the story since I don't know if it's necessarily appropriate for YouTube. Nothing sexual was happening. Um, at best it was a playing doctor kind of situation. But even that's probably even too far for what it was. Again, honestly, there was nothing sexual, and neither one of us were developed. So, take with that what you will. And growing up was when the internet really started to take off. I am a late millennial. In case you didn't know, I'm 32. So I remember when we had, I'm pretty sure it was more or less dial-up, and it was the old AOL and everything like that. And I even remember DOSBox, right? So all stuff. And nowadays, of course, you have you have corn. Who cares? I have. I'm not going to record this again. We have corn everywhere. I think the only place you can't find corn nowadays is in grocery stores, but you can find it in music, the songs themselves, and the music videos. You can find them in TV shows. You could find corn in video games. Some of the most, if you go to any gaming website, some of the most popular games, besides your typical Call of Duties and everything, are these games about corn, basically, or borderline corn, otherwise known as peas, I guess. if we're gonna lean real in on this joke shit. So, what are my thoughts on corn? I think corn should be banned from being created, at the very least, um, for a number of reasons. Number one, it allows female farmers to survive off of men without actually providing anything of value. At least female farmers used to hire men to sow their fields, and, men would pay to rent their fields, more like. And nowadays, women can just take a few pictures of their corn, maybe film a Instagram reel of their corn, and then make hundreds, if not thousands, of dollars. Um, I would argue that the act of a man renting a woman was at least productive, because eating corn from a screen is not the same as eating corn in real life. One fulfills you a lot more, especially in the context of a relationship, for what it's worth. But I would imagine, not that I've engaged in this behavior, but I would imagine even having the real thing would be more fulfilling, even on a casual level, even though it's probably a little more gross than digital corn. But I digress. Number two, it is unproductive. Imagine we put the effort into anything else that we would do instead of creating corn to making families instead. Now, of course, the elites don't want that, but my point still stands, is that it is unproductive for society. People would rather support their degenerate artist than build walls keeping out the invasive vegetables which steal their jobs and their female farmers. It amazes me that it's easier to see any part of a woman that I want than being able to talk to one for the purpose of having a relationship. And the reality is that you have to think about, this is something that you need to acknowledge, is that women want that. They want it to be easier for me to go find any part of their body online than be able to talk to them in person. Women want that because it's true. I'm gonna say that line again, just so you don't have to go back in the video. It amazes me that it's easier to see any part of a woman than being able to talk to one for the purposes of having a relationship. I'm just making a statement here. Think of that fact what you will, but it is a fact and you cannot deny it. And women would rather expose themselves than let a man love them. I'm frankly not surprised. And what impresses me is how so many apps not dedicated to corn are still dedicated to corn. In the sense of, I wrote that in the script and I'm not actually sure where to go with that. So I'm going to maybe ignore that one. Anyway, I've been trying to quit corn since, I don't even know, maybe my late teens or early 20s. I'm 32 and I still can't say I'm free of the stuff. There's a lot of content dedicated to quitting corn, and I don't think I have much to contribute that hasn't already been said on the discussion of it. I will say the best way is to have a social life in general. Corn for me was about the lack of connection to the world, and it's also tied into a lot of shame and guilt, and these are things that can be corrected through socialization, healthy socialization, I should say. But that is not the most difficult thing to find, I would also say. And accomplishments, what was I saying here? Sorry, I wrote this script a while ago. Yeah, I kind of talked about all that. The one thing that it's easier to go onto a website and say that you are over 18, whether you are or aren't, than it is to make a friend nowadays, it seems. I mean, logistically it's easier. And even that's kind of crazy to me, Imagine we had as many websites dedicated to finding friendships as we do to looking at corn. That would be amazing to me. And that would be a very different world, I think. If men get more responses that said yes in their life, corn wouldn't be on the menu. And I'm reminded of soldiers in Vietnam who used hard drugs when they were overseas. And once they came back home, they no longer used the drugs because they had their social support structures again. And I believe there's also a study on rats where they would give the rats regular water and, let's say, special water. And the rats would deliberately avoid the special water when they had proper social interactions. So they weren't interested in cheap highs when they could get the real substantive thing. It's all part of a system of pacification, because basically the elites have two options, and that is either force women to satisfy the average man, or give average men a outlet, because otherwise you have a bunch of fighting age men who are not getting what they frankly need in order to function. Finally, I find it utterly baffling that we allow women to compete for how many men they can, shall we say, feed in a day, rather than how long they can have a stable relationship. More women are competing for how many men they can feed in a day versus women competing for having a healthy, stable relationship. Just go back to my other point about how this is what women want. They don't want stable relationships. They want to see how many men they can feed in a day. It's crazy. That's crazy to me. It's all just misplaced priorities and hedonism. As I said in one of my other videos, women are not brainwashed. I think that's the most important thing to understand when it comes to understanding what you should do with women, is you have to understand they are not brainwashed. This is what they want. Nobody told them to want this. This is just what they want. They're just allowed to do it. and it is promoted. But the propaganda is for you, not for them. But if you want more than information, go check out that video. I hope you all got something out of this. I didn't want this to be a long one. It turned out to be a little longer than the most recent ones, but so be it. I wish you well, boys.